let's continue. Well, I already told you the main idea behind the social democracy, the way the capitalist economic system might be transformed into system which will more favor the workers, and the main idea is not like it's not like the neoclassical economy's idea, by the way, which basically stands that actually the economy by itself without regulation is serving to the workers anyway. It's rather than the idea that with as capitalism progresses, you have larger corporations and more organized workers, which might actually do collective bargaining, controlling the countries. I mean, checking the countries and companies, uh, providing some control over the companies so that they will serve to social needs. And also guaranteeing a certain minimum life standards to the workers by maybe passing certain laws on working conditions, wages, and later you might also say that I mean certain um, certain services, providing certain services for the workers freely. Of course, um, this idea was not fully developed in the early 19th century. As time passed on, it starts to develop, but the main idea, main values were there. And of course, social democracy at its very beginning was also claiming with these transformations, step by step, you can reach in the end to a social system anyway. So you don't need to make a revolution to get to a social system. Although in the mid 20th century, this idea was, you might say, more or less abandoned, and maybe staying in capitalist system, we might have it might be good enough to stay in the capitalist system with certain rights, certain protections, and certain regulations that were in place. Has been kind of the position of some social democrats. Although, so this was still the social democracy with its idea to provide, I mean, workers certain minimum life standards, and giving uh, organized labor a legal ground, and also um, controlling, checking the companies, regulating the companies and markets was one of the ingredients of main economic understanding that was becoming relatively more mainstream. And as it becomes more mainstream, it also starts to distance itself from the revolution and the Marxism to some extent also, which was not that difficult to do because they see the socialist revolution in the Russia, and they still say, okay, well, the system that was founded here was not a system we want. Of course, I mean, you could very well argue that if there's a, let's say, revolution in England, that would create a different system from compared with the revolution in Russia. But at that time, very much people might take, okay, this is an example social system. So if we were to decide whether to transform capitalism into socialism, we can look to Russia as an example social system and decide whether it is better than the capitalism in England. Um, so they don't imagine a different socialism in England, but they look to the Russia. And Russia had many problems also because of isolation to some extent. In 1920s and 30s, it continued to have problems, but of course in 20s and 30s those problems were much more severe in every aspect. And they said we don't want this kind of a system. The second their will to stay within the capitalist system, and it also allowed them to stay in the mainstream. Well, on the other hand, in 1933, in United States, a new president was elected, and that president put a vision, and especially because of the importance of the United States, that vision has become important. That vision is called New Deal, and New Deal is kind of, it might be synonymous, I mean, a word which kind of implies there was an old deal which was made when United States was founded. United States was not founded by a ethnic identity, at least not officially. It wasn't based on ethnic identity or religion. Rather, it was built upon an agreement, which was actually called the United States Constitution. And that constitution, that agreement itself, is kind of like a sacred document. I mean, even today, its potential variations are objected by certain people. So Roosevelt, to some extent, has kind of renewed the deal and may create a new deal with certain additional aspects, adding certain initial aspects to the overall values of the United States. And those values were pretty much like the state's role in um, getting economy out of them, out of the uh, out of problem. I mean, if economy is not functioning well, states job to get economy out of trouble and make it function again. It doesn't necessarily directly affect the economic system, but it regulates the economic system in a way that the economic system will run well. So it becomes state's responsibility to create a well-functioning economic system. In addition to that, he also has added this idea that um, state is responsible providing some minimum life standards to all of its people. This view is also expressed by there were big four posters during the World War II, which was published again and again at different places, and which basically were stating why are we fighting, and basically, well, one of the famous reasons is to overcome four fears. So those four fears were fear from religion, fear for actually for to overcome to get four freedoms, basically, not fears. I'm sorry. So those four freedoms were freedom of religion, freedom of expression. There was one more, and there is freedom from want. Freedom from want is pretty much means that actually you should not starve, you should not get hungry. I mean, you should have freedom from. I mean, things you need to look for things you need. I mean, you should not be just trying to survive. You should be free from this, free from uh, this kind of life. I mean, so that you can rather concentrate on being productive and live your life. Be happy. Not you should not put all your energy to find ways to survive day-to-day basis. So that was Roosevelt's New Deal. And Keynes, on the other hand, Keynes is not United American man, by the way. I mean, Bernstein is German. Roosevelt is American. Keynes is British, and he was even called Lord Keynes. And he actually was pretty much has the idea that economy should be regulated. An unregulated economy is likely to enter to the crisis. So the regulation of the economic system was necessary. He was not that much for social programs or getting workers' living standards to above a certain point. Although in 1930s he has written a document which has said actually the countries like the developed countries, not developing countries, but developed countries, in 100 years, which will be 2020, will get to a certain economic development level where basically there won't be anyone living in there who will basically will just struggle to survive day-to-day basis. So this struggle to survival will be overcome by the developed nations. Again, not developing nations, but the developed nations. So he thought that actually economic system, the evolution of the economic system will bring society to a certain point where the struggle of survival will just not be a matter anymore. But basically, for him, regulations of the economic system should not aim to improve them. living standards of the workers. It might even not be necessary. I mean, Keynes was, by the way, student of Marshall, and he was admiring Marshall very much. And in the long run, he believed that the basic Marshall's ideas for through the economic system will create sufficiently high living standards and will provide sufficiently high level of payment to the productive workers at least. Only in the short run, in order to get economy out of trouble, state needs to intervene. And that intervention, for example, he talks on the state creating demand. That demand can be created by anything, according to him. Even, for example, you might hire some workers to dig a hole in the morning and then hire new workers to fill the hole again. So these three economic understandings become more or less key in the at least developed nations of the world, basically, and also their impacts also, of course, separate to many of the developing nations, not the Soviet bloc necessarily. To some extent, even there might be some effects, but especially developing nations which were still not socialist or they did not look to the Soviet Union, they were affected from this view also. So I have already told you the basis of the Keynesian economics, but basic problem is the short run. The short run. He didn't define the short run, but he basically assumes that economy, when it is in trouble, it moves back to slowly moves back to the position where all the efficiency levels will be restored. But that period might be longer than you think. It might take 10 years or 20 years in some cases, even if it left to itself. So his very famous word is, in the long run, we are all dead. So his main focus has become short run economics. And the other side, other thing he was focused on is the demand side economics, because he pretty much was believing the main disturbances of the economic system were created. And this is most drastic ideas come from the demand side problems. And basically, the main source of instability, according to him, was the irrational financial behavior, which he gives very famous example of the beauty contest. Basically, the economists, in economy, when people make investments, especially in the stock exchange market, which affects all companies' ability to get investment funds everywhere else. Basically, the investors are acting not to invest in companies with highest profit potential. Rather, they invest in companies which prices, which potential the assets of which or stocks of which are likely to increase as much as possible. So the stocks that which have increasing prices are bought by the people, and this is done by the people who are just, who are inexperienced in the stock market. But this is also done by the people who are experts in the stock market. Actually, those experts are experts of the price fluctuations. They know when the prices will move up and down. So this creates this irrationality, according to Keynes, which means actually when the prices are rising, everyone starts to buy the prices. But when for some reason the prices starts to fall, irrationally, everyone starts to sell their stocks, even if the company itself might be still profitable. So basically, the investors might just decide it's a good time or bad time without any particular reason. And, let's continue in the next part. What will be the consequence of this type of investors?